This episode is sponsored by Realtor.com, who wants you to take advantage of your free profile on Realtor.com. By claiming and completing your free profile, adding a photo, and all of the information that puts you head and shoulders above the competition, you're on your way to receiving free leads, helping search engines find you, and staying top of mind with past clients. To learn more about claiming your free profile, go to Realtor.com/profile. Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Ohio Policy Talk. We are in episode number 3, and I'm really excited to be talking today about the new Ohio Homebuyer Plus Savings Program. This is something that I know here at Ohio Realtors we've been working on for a long time. We wanted to bring this to the state of Ohio, and we finally made it happen. So we're going to dive into a little bit more about the program, what it means, and I'm so happy to have joining me today Andrew Huffman, who is the Ohio Realtors Assistant VP of Government Affairs, and Treasurer Robert Sprague, who has been our major advocate on getting this through to Ohio's home buyers. So Treasurer Sprague and Andrew, welcome onto the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thanks, Allison.
So I kind of want to start out before we get into the program and all of the details and what it's going to mean for consumers here in Ohio. Treasurer Sprague, I'd like to hear a little bit more about you for our listeners who may not know what goes on in your world, what some of your roles and responsibilities are. Could you share with us a little bit about what you do as state treasurer, some of the services and programs that your office provides to Ohioans?
Wait a second, Allison. I thought you wanted people to listen to this podcast. But just a brief overview of kind of what we do in the office. We've got about a $30 billion cash portfolio, which in some places is actually regarded as a real money. It's a significant amount. We invest that on behalf of the taxpayers of Ohio. We also oversee the cash inflows and outflows for the state. So because we have Andrew Huffman here as a taxpayer of the state of Ohio, we have very good income tax inflows and outflows, about $90 billion worth every year that come in, and then disbursements that we make. We've got a $10 billion debt portfolio that we also manage. So we access the capital markets in terms of our debt issuance for the state of Ohio. We've got a lot of programs for local governments. We've got our OMAP program that we're always pushing. So if you're a local government official, we'd be happy to help you with this. But it's where you can take advantage of the state's credit rating, which, by the way, we got an upgrade last year. So it's phenomenal. First time we've ever gotten a AAA credit rating from Fitch. It's really a feather in the state's cap because they're not just looking at our fiscal management, they're really looking at our economic future for the state of Ohio. And you as a local official can leverage the state's credit rating with our program and for notes, and we'll underwrite those notes. We also have our Star Ohio program for local officials, and that's where you can take advantage of our investment desk and essentially get the same rate of returns that we get. I mean, we're in and out of the market for hundreds of millions of dollars a day, almost as much as Andrew Huffman. We've got a whole bunch of services that we provide in the state treasurer's office, in addition to being the custodian for almost $300 billion worth of state pension fund money.
That's awesome. Thanks for providing a good overview. I always just like to get a good background and some insider information on, what you do there. So thanks so much for sharing with us. And Andrew, I think you're going to dive us into this new program, which we're super excited about, as I mentioned. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it and what we can expect?
Allison, this is the Homebuyer Plus Savings Program, which is why we're here today and why we have Treasurer Sprague on. Treasurer, one of your new responsibilities will be overseeing this Ohio Homebuyer Plus program, which is a new savings account program specifically designed to encourage homeownership. And this was, like I said, a new program that was created in the state operating budget that was signed into law in July And it allows Ohioans to open up a savings account specifically designed for the purchase of a new home. And any deposits made to these accounts can be deducted from an individual's state income taxes. So you get tax savings by making contributions to these accounts. And really, the only caveat is that it has to be used for the purchase of a new home, a primary residence. It can't be used for investment properties. And then another neat aspect that I thought was just great that the state added was the fact that family members and employers can make contributions to these accounts. The family members can take the same tax savings as the account holder. And that's really going to, I think, make it much easier for Ohioans to afford a down payment on a new home. It's going to be great. And Treasurer Sprague, Allison alluded to it, but your office, Governor DeWine, you both really spearheaded this in the state operating budget, and we can't thank you enough. We have been advocating for this for years, and it was your office and the governor that really got it through to the finish line. And I have the question for you is, what made your office so passionate about this? What made you want to get involved in this issue?
Well, I think there were two things. First was we were looking at this internally because I think it's widely recognized in the state of Ohio. If you talk to anybody in the state, you start talking to small communities like Bucyrus. I don't know if you've ever been up to Bucyrus, but Bucyrus they're like, well, hey, how can we build more housing up here? I mean, everybody wants to build more housing. And then the flip side is nobody can find, kind of enough housing to be able to buy. Everybody wants to buy a house. And in many cases, young people can't afford to buy a house now. And you've seen, the construction inflation, the inflation construction costs. You got mortgage rates at a 20-year high. You got inflation still biting at everybody's heels. I think it was 3.2% in October. So this whole confluence of factors has made it very difficult to afford a home here in the state of Ohio. And I was just talking with one of your members 2 days ago. And I said, hey, we're coming out with this new Ohio Homebuyer Plus Savings Program. I think it's going to be really great. They said, Robert, they said the number one reason that I find that people don't buy a house is that they can't afford the down payment. And that's kind of what this purpose of this whole program. So that was the first piece. We recognized that it was an issue. We were looking for a way to have an impact on this. And then the second piece was that the governor, Mike DeWine, mentioned it in his State of the State address and said, hey, we'd love to have the treasurer's office participate in this. John Husted said, the lieutenant governor said, hey, we think this would be a great idea. Can the treasurer's office help with this? And we said, absolutely, we'll put our shoulder to the wheel. So that's how it came about. This Ohio Homebuyer Plus is going to be a huge deal. And we know that when people buy a house in the state of Ohio, they're invested long-term in our state. And that's what we want. We want to keep those families here. We want to keep that talent here.
Well, and thank you for coming up with the Ohio Homebuyer Plus program name. We had such a hard time in the budget trying to describe this program to lawmakers and saying, hey, it's like a savings account for potential home buyers, but we didn't have a good name for it. So thank you for coming up with that name. And one aspect of the program that I left out, Treasurer, was this linked deposit model, which is something that when we initially came up with this proposal, we did not include the linked deposit model, which is really significant and adds really another incentive for Ohioans to open up accounts. And yep. I know your office is very familiar with the linked deposit process. Can you explain a bit more about that? Because I have a feeling our listeners probably have never heard of a linked deposit.
Well, the bottom line with the Ohio Homebuyer Plus Savings Account is that you have your own savings and you get an interest from your financial institution. Plus, you get an additional interest rate from the treasurer's office. Plus, you get an income tax deduction, you get a tax savings. And all that adds up to hopefully dramatically being able to grow your savings at a much faster rate for that home. And I think that's why we're calling it Ohio Homebuyer Plus. And I'll tell you, this linked deposit model, we're kind of getting into the plumbing here a little bit, but just to make it really simple, we're using the power of our balance sheet with these financial institutions. And we do that right now with our ag link for our farmers. And essentially, our farmers go to the financial institution, they take out a loan, a planting loan here in the state of Ohio. And what happens is the financial institution gives them an interest rate. And we're able to put a deposit at that same financial institution and buy down their interest rate anywhere from 1% to 4%. And we said, hey, what if we just use the same concept, but instead we increase the interest earnings by 1% to 4% for individuals that are trying to save for a house here in the state of Ohio. So that's what we did. We're using the same power of our linked deposit program, but in a new creative way to try to make a difference for home buyers.
That's what's going to separate this program from what has been attempted in other states. Not only do you get the tax savings, but then this enhanced interest rate. It's a win all around, Treasurer, and thank you for your work on that.
This episode of The Real View is brought to you by the Ohio Association of Community Colleges. Ohio's network of community colleges provides accessible training that accommodates the busy lifestyles of aspiring real estate professionals at half the price of a traditional university. With convenient locations in every part of the state, as well as online options, Ohio's community colleges are your smart choice for pre-licensing education. For more details or to start the journey to a real estate career, visit the education page at ohiorealtors.org and then click on the pre-license course locations. You're on the same page of what I was going to say is it does sound like it separates us from what other states have done. And I'm just curious. I know other states do have similar programs to this. Do either of you know kind of what they do, what some of their models, and if there's any other differences? I know we just pointed out a major difference, but is there anything different that kind of sets us apart more than what we just talked about? And what do some of the other states around the country do?
You know, Allison, we've really been exclusively focused on just one state that we feel like is important to beat in every respect, and that is Michigan. So we just tried to make sure that we're given a much higher interest rate than Michigan does, and we're going to do that no matter what happens. All right. So that's my commitment to everybody on the podcast.
Well, I'm glad that we're going to beat them on this because it doesn't seem like we're having much luck in some other things.
Don't go there, Allison. Don't go there. All right. But listen, I think it's going to be really good. And you're right. It's a different structure than a lot of the other states and the programs that we looked at in other states. And I think it's a winning combination. And let me tell you, one of the kind of unsung things that I think is going to be a huge win out of this, and it's a little bit different than one other states. So we're just with the newspaper this morning, or the newscaster this morning. And at the end of the interview, he said, "Hey, Robert," he said, "this is a lot like a college 529 savings account, right?" I was like, well, like a similar concept, but there's a whole bunch of different moving parts. Here's the key thing, though, that I think is going to lead to the success of this program. It's like with a College 529, what you do is you open that up, and it's an account that it's essentially in a savings account that the state holds. These savings accounts are held where? At the local financial institutions, right? So it's at your credit union, it's at your bank. It's at these local financial institutions that everybody's going to go to get their mortgage eventually and to be able to buy the house. And these local financial institutions are the ones that are going to advertise these programs to their customers and their constituencies. And, it's not like you just have all of a sudden the Ohio Realtors on board and the state treasurer's office. It's that every financial institution in the state of Ohio can potentially bring customers to bear and have this help their customers. And I think that's what's going to make a difference in this program.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
And Treasurer, you're right. We knew going into this that we were going to have to partner with our financial institutions, and they were involved in every coalition letter that we wrote. We were ensured that we had our friends in the Bankers League as well as the credit unions on board, and I know they're pretty excited to get these accounts up and running. So hopefully we can continue to work with them once the program becomes official.
I got to tell you, just anecdotally, I was talking with somebody on the phone yesterday in Columbus. And he said, Robert, he said, you're not going to believe this, but my son, who's like, in his mid-20s, heard about this program the other day, was reading about it, I think, in one of the news releases, like I don't know if it was at the Dispatch or something where this was running. And he said, he turned to me and he said, hey, I think maybe I'm going to open up one of these savings accounts. I'm telling you, like every time we go out and we talk about this, people come up to me afterwards and are like, really? So tell me about how this works and how do I sign up? So for any of your members that want to sign up, right? In January, it's going to launch. Go to www.ohiotreasurer.gov, and we'll get you can get information there and you get signed up. And I think there's going to be a lot of young people that are going to sign up for this program. And by the way, in case you're thinking, well, this program doesn't apply to me or there must be a lot of strings attached, right? Not only is the program super simple to sign up with, you can save up to $100,000 in one of these savings accounts, all right? And you got to remember, these are this is like a savings account. So it's fully FDIC insured, right? It's not like you're going to lose money on this investment. So it's a great one of the best investment you can make right now, quite frankly, in this market. All right. That's the first thing. The second thing is simple criteria. Just got to be an Ohioan, all right? No Michiganders here. I mean, all right? Just got to be an Ohioan. Just got to be a Buckeye, number one. And number two, you got to use the money for the down payment or the closing costs on a primary residence here in the state of Ohio. So no lake houses, all right? No vacation properties, just your primary residence. Those are the only two criteria. So this program, I think, is really going to have wings and it's going to take off. And we appreciate you helping get the word out about it.
Well, like you said, Treasurer, not only can an individual make contributions to the accounts, but then family members can as well. And as we look towards the holidays, grandma can make a gift to one of these accounts, parents, a graduation gift to a young person. I could really see these taking off and really just benefiting Ohioans.
Absolutely. That'd be a fantastic gift under the Christmas tree, wouldn't it, Andrew?
Yes, it would.
A $5,000, deposit or $100 deposit for, to help some young person save for their home or add to their savings for a home. You can make a better investment either in your family or in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, no, that's going to be really special. And it solves such a big puzzle piece when it comes to home ownership and getting more people into homes. As you mentioned, we know that need exists. We know people in Ohio value home ownership. They want to make an investment, in their homes, and having this is going to just remove such a big barrier that is that down payment part of it. And I'm excited to see where it takes off. I wish I would have had this when I was buying my home, because that would have helped out. But it's going to help so many Ohioans and just make home ownership more accessible to all. Thank you so much for your work on this, Treasurer, and Andrew too. I know this is something that, as I mentioned in the beginning, we've been working on here at Ohio Realtors for many, many years. So we are so excited to bring this to Ohio and to our clients and as realtors. And I hope that you all will check out this program, learn more about it, bring this to your clients. You guys as champions should be the ones in your communities telling everyone about this and how to take advantage of this. So we're really excited. We're really optimistic, and we're looking forward to seeing where this program's going to go. So thank you again, Treasurer and Andrew, for your hard work on this and for joining me today and sharing a little bit more about the program.
Thanks, Allison.
Thanks, Allison.
And to all of our listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you soon. Thanks. Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.